I think the main thing that we can do is, first of all, look at attendance in college. About 40% of the students are not there. Well, the students who are there, if you just go and look at their faces, they generally seem painfully bored.
Hello, I'm Josh Barrow, Senior Editor of Business Insider, and I'm here with Brian Kaplan, who's an economics professor at George Mason University in Virginia, and he's author of The Case Against Education, Why the Education System is a Waste of Money. Most of the analyses I read say that what you get back in increased salary much more than offsets the cost of that education. Is this book a case that people ought not to go to college?
No. It is true that people who finish college get a good deal. People who drop out, on the other hand, it's much less clear that it is worth their while. But the main thing that I talk about in the book is that it's not really a good investment from a social point of view, because the main reason why people get this big wage premium isn't primarily that they are actually learning a lot of useful skills in school. The main reason I say is that they are showing off, they're jumping through hoops, they're impressing employers. Selfishly speaking, it doesn't really matter why your degree pays. But from the point of view of taxpayers, it matters a lot whether people are actually learning useful skills in school or whether they're mostly just getting a bunch of stickers on their forehead, because you can't have a whole economy based on stickers.
What if we think about education as a consumption good? People enjoy going to college, and then there's also a sense that it's, college isn't purely a job training tool, that it helps develop people as humans. Isn't it plausible that that's a reason that people care about going?
I think the main thing that we can do is, first of all, look at attendance in college. About 40% of the students are not there. Well, the students who are there, if you just go and look at their faces, they generally seem painfully bored. If the consumption is just socializing with other kids your own age, then maybe that's what people really value, although that could happen in so many other ways than in college.
Let's break this down, this idea, the distinction between the value to the individual of the degree and the broader social value. You talk a lot about this concept called signaling. Can you explain what that is?
When you go to school, you're showing off. You may also be picking up useful skills, but one of the things you do is you just look better than other people. You say, look at me, I'm able to get this degree from Harvard, I'm smart, I'm hardworking, I'm willing to play by the rules. And when you do this, employers are impressed. So it's a minimum, they're a lot less likely to throw your application in the trash, because of course that's where most applications go. But if everyone had one more degree, then you would need one more degree to get those doors open, and that's really the problem that I'm talking about.
If most of what the degree is showing is the signal, and we ought to be able to find a way to send that signal that doesn't take 4 years and cost more than $100,000. Why hasn't that arisen? You would think it would be in the interest of both the students and the employers to figure out who the right employees to hire were that would be less expensive than that, and yet we haven't gone in that direction.
Education is not just signaling intelligence, which you could definitely figure out ways of measuring in a shorter amount of time. Say it's signaling this package of you've got intelligence, you've got work ethic, and you've also just got sheer conformity. I'm willing to comply with social norms.
Let's talk some about solutions. It seems like there should be strong incentives if this system is so broken for it to get fixed, and it doesn't get fixed. So how do we do education more efficiently, more effectively than we do right now?
Big thing that I push is just spending less on education. People get so nervous about this idea because they're picturing the thought experiment where one person is denied funding and it ruins their life. If that's what you're picturing, that's reasonable, but what I say is, just picture if there was just a general reduction in the amount of education that the whole society had, and how this would change the way that employers consider applications.
If your strategy is to cut government funding so that if people do want to send these signals, they have to pay for it themselves, then you're cutting off people who grew up in poor families who no longer have access to the signal, even if they could have achieved the non-monetary things there. Doesn't that just leave talented people no longer able to match to employers into jobs that they could do?
In terms of, what about someone who's poor who no longer is able to afford education, and isn't this terrible? Every system is going to have some mistakes, so I've just got to be honest and acknowledge that. But here's the main thing. Would you rather be a high school dropout today or a high school dropout in 1940 in terms of the penalty that the labor market attaches? I think it's pretty clear that the penalty is much greater today. This is really one of the main changes over time is, yes, we have gone and plucked out the very best students from poor families, but at the same time we've also greatly increased the stigma against other people from those families that are not inclined to go and get a college degree. And I think if we really want an equitable society, we've got to have to consider not just the really smart kid from a poor family, we got to consider the average kids from poor families who now I think actually have a harder time moving up.
Are there any other countries that you see taking a better approach on this?
Yeah, so Switzerland and Germany, I think, do a much better job. So they have a much bigger emphasis on vocational education. The main point of vocational education is to teach concrete job skills. It's not just to show off. Basically, the idea there, especially for kids that just don't like academics very much, and that's a lot of kids. A lot of kids just find academics excruciatingly boring, and they would rather be doing something instead of just sitting listening to some windbag talk. In Germany and Switzerland, when you're 13 or 14 or 15, they go and find kids like this and give them the option, at least, of getting trained in particular job skills. Of course, there's a lot of people there who are very interested, and especially, of course, the stigma is less because so many people do it. It really is fair to say that Germany and Switzerland manage to have virtually no underclass just because they go and listen to kids like that, or at least that they take their existence seriously, and they try to find something that they're good at doing, that they like doing. Just a much more functional system of their own where vocational education is an afterthought at best.